to lead with empathy, communities to act with unity, and individuals to see the value in every person they meet. Nelson Mandela once said, "If you are filled with Ubuntu, you are generous, you are hospitable, you are compassionate." These are the values that can heal divisions, foster peace, and build societies where everyone belongs. So as we move through our daily lives, in our homes, in our workplaces, in our communities, let us remember Ubuntu. Let us live with the understanding that I am because we are. Good morning, everyone, to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Door County. My name is Nora Flood. It's a privilege to be a part of the board here, to be your service leader today, and to welcome our good friend Ajamu Butler back to the fellowship. We'd like to welcome those of you who are joining us for the first time or joining us for the first time in a long time. We know that being singled out can feel tender, so we offer this invitation gently. If you are visiting today, and if it feels right to you, we invite you to stand and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself. And know your presence here already matters, whether or not you choose to share. I see some name tags. Good morning.
I'm Sarah.
Good morning. Good morning.
It's our first time here, but we are building a house just south of Sturgeon Bay, and we're just kind of getting our feet wet in different places in the county. So.
Wonderful. Welcome. Welcome. Anyone else? Okay. Thank you. I'd also like to welcome all of you joining online, and we would especially like to welcome Ajamu's mother, Clara, who's joining us from North Carolina. Good morning, Clara. If anyone has any other announcements pertaining to the fellowship, please raise your hand and Jim will bring the mic to you.
Just want to remind everyone that it's a Dickinson Poetry series on Wednesday night here at 7 o'clock. We're going to be reading poetry of Francia Bernard, who is no longer with us except in spirit, and she was truly a force in this community.
I just want to remind those who wish to attend, it didn't make the back of the order of service, but we are Thursday morning, 9:30 to 11 is Coffee and Conversation. We have an ebb and flow on our attendance, but I do know for those who attend, we just recently did a survey and it is having a big impact of connection and community. So we encourage you to join us Thursday, 9:30. Thank you.
Lynn Lees. Many of you know I have kids and grandkids in Minneapolis, as do Cindy and Bruce Nelson, and many more of you. I've spent the last 6 months back and forth to Minneapolis, helping my daughter through chemo. Since then, I have traveled that huge city from stem to stern and have been aware of what's going on. The media is not covering the stress that is there. Trust me. Even today, I read the New York Times online every morning. The only mention of Minneapolis is a tiny little article on the fact that there's an uptick in gun sales. It is real. It is awful. I communicated with my daughter-in-law yesterday and asked her for resources where we can contribute to families. I have one from a suburb adjacent to their suburb that's quite an evolved charity for their community. I have another one that is a Venmo address from the daughter of her dear friend, who is Hearst Small Community is supporting 10 families that can't leave their homes and will lose their home if their rent isn't paid month to month. So either Google for yourself and find a safe contribution place, or see me afterwards. Thanks.
Good morning. This month is a boycott month from 50501 and a bunch of other organizations, so they're asking you don't participate in any like big box like Lowe's or Home Depot. They've been contributors to the Trump administration. Any other big places, things like AT&T, Amazon, suspend your Amazon for a month if you can, or cancel altogether if you're able to do that. I know it's hard here in the rural for not to have Amazon, but at least for this month, maybe hold back. Do your best to make an economic impact, and we're hoping that it will be felt. Thank you.
I'm going to get out of here. Good morning. Jane Wise. I have two announcements related. Today's the last day to vote for your favorite, what is this called, Super Bowl team, because I don't pay attention to football, really. But they're kind of even out there. So if you have a favorite, get your canned goods or whatever in there. There's also a little envelope on the wall, short wall, if you'd rather donate some money. So next week, watch for the e-blast about our second celebration for the food pantry, and that's President's Day. So we're honoring 4 of our particularly, effective presidents over the years, and it's going to be all about their favorite food, and it'll be kind of fun. So watch for that e-blast and start thinking about what you think the favorite food is of Washington, Lincoln, FDR, and Obama. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan. So just a few items before we actually begin the service. Please remember to silence your phones or any other noise makers so you don't interrupt Ajamu. If you are having difficulty hearing at any time, please let us know, and I will speak louder or we'll adjust the volume. Following today's service, please join us for refreshments in the gathering room, and then our discussion with Ajamu will convene about 15 minutes after. You can listen for the chimes. And we're so honored to welcome back Ajamu Butler, who braves the weather, it seems, every winter to visit us. He came up this morning from Madison. We get to hear what you're thinking about, what you're planning, and lessons that will help each of us to live each day with Ubuntu. So thank you. And there's more about Ajamu in the order of service. We'd like to begin this morning with Jane Wise, who is the co-chair of our Social Justice Committee, lighting our chalice. We come from many places, along different paths, bringing different truths. We come with different histories and different realities, and yet we come together as one people, with faith that we can use our differences to heal ourselves and each other, and to bring wholeness to this fractured world. We come seeking to find community, to find acceptance of who we are. In this place, we may find others who are much like us, and others who are much different. May our lit chalice remind us that we are a people taught by different stories, with many voices, but always one people, working for a world where love creates justice and justice gives birth to peace. And now, please stand if you're able. Trish is going to play hymn 146, Soon That Day Will Arrive, and then please stay standing if you can for the affirmation of our UU vision and for the doxology.
Soon the day will arrive when we will be together, and no longer will we live in fear. children will smile, without wondering whether on that day thunder clouds will appear. Wait and see what a world there can be if we share, if we care, you and me. Wait and see what a world there can be if we share, if we care, you and me. Some have dreamed, some have died to make a bright tomorrow, and our vision remains in our hearts. Now the torch must be passed with hope, not in sorrow, but a promise to make a new start. Wait and see what a world there can be if we share, if we care, you and me. Wait and see what a world there can be if we share, if we care, you and me.
Beautiful. Thank you, Trish. We gather together to seek knowledge and wisdom, to explore freely the vast reaches of mind and spirit, to celebrate within a caring community those truths, ancient and modern, which give meaning and direction to our lives. From all that dwell below the skies, let songs of hope and faith arise. Let peace and will on earth be sung, in every land, by every tongue. Thank you. And now, as we share our joys and concerns, we remember that what touches one of us touches us all. We listen not to fix or advise, but to witness and to care, and often to celebrate. You are invited to speak from your own experience, trusting this community to hold you with respect. Please keep in mind that this service is both live streamed and saved on the internet, so please share about another person only if you have permission from them.
I want to report that my Ho-Chunk grandchildren and daughter are still okay in St. Paul and Minneapolis.
Wonderful. Good. Thank you. Well, there you go. We have one more big joy. Could I ask Jan to come up, please? And Tim.
It's my great joy to welcome Tim Guyden to join in fellowship with us today. Human beings have gathered for centuries seeking a higher purpose and deeper life than they could find alone. We are grateful today for you, Tim, that you have found your way here and that you have decided to make a commitment to this faith community. We know that as a member of this church, you will allow yourself to know and be known, to minister to and be ministered unto, to love and be loved by this congregation. So now I invite Tim to come and share some of his story.
I think I said this once before to this group of people. This is an old lawyer's trick. If you think you're going to be emotional, bring something to drink. Because if you feel those tears a sip will physically push them down. So. Part of the reason I'm here this morning is this gong. This gong grounds me. It gives me a sense of presence and of belonging. What I have to say is going to be short, but I am struggling mightily. How about something else? All my life, I have sought acceptance from my family, at schools, in churches, from a very, very young age. It was important to me. Looking back, I'm not sure I found it. And so as years went by, I continued to seek acceptance from family, from the people in my career, from churches, from churches, from churches, and from churches. A lot of churches. I've been to churches on some of the worst days of my life, and I've stood at that locked door and cried because I could not get in. I've gotten into some of those churches. And when I go to a church, I seek two things: a big tent and a small rule book. And I tend not to find either one of those anywhere I go. The big tent, more and more churches are trying to appear like a big tent. I can't begin to count how many churches I've stood in and heard, "Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome, but let us fix you first. We'll mold you in our image, and then you'll be welcome." I can't find that big tent. The small rule book. I love the Bible. It's a wonderful story. But that's not what we need. We need one rule. Love. Love, 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 love. It's the only rule we need. And so, my journey continues. And I found the UUs almost 2 years ago. I was 64 at that time. And when I was 18, it was the first time, and I have told this story to some of you. When I was 18, it was the first time one of my mentors walked up to me and said, "Tim, you're a UU." I was 18. I was 63 the first time I stepped into a UU church. But that guy and another of my mentors, that entire time, kept telling me to come here. But I kept saying, it's not Christian. And I'm not sure I'll ever get rid of my Christian roots. But what I started to see in the UU, the first year I went in Michigan, it's not that it's not Christian. It's Christian plus, 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 plus. A UU fellowship can be anything you want it to be. Can be anything you need it to be. And so I find myself with the UUs and very happy and very proud about it. And I'm going to come full circle to the gong, or the bowl, or whatever you call it. There's a second reason I hit it, maybe even more important. I have stood up in Catholic churches. For those of you who are Catholic, this might mean a little more for you. I have stood up in the middle of Catholic churches, in the middle of the priest's homily, and I have called them out on things. I have stood up in Protestant churches and tried to say things. And I've been told time and time again, you shouldn't do that. You can't do that. You're no longer welcome here because you said that. You dared to say something that might make someone afraid. And we can't have fear within our four walls. But when I started thinking about this today, one of the first thoughts I had was get up there and hit that bowl. Because you know what? There's not a person in that room who is going to look at you and say, you shouldn't have done that. You can't do that. That's not when we hit the bowl. It doesn't carry the same power or magic. I knew when I hit that bowl that I would look out and I would see every look I am seeing in everyone's eyes. And I knew I was going to relish this moment. Because I'll bet most of you have been in that position. Most of you have been slapped down. Most of you have been rejected. Most of you have been left alone and abandoned because of something you did that you thought was right. Yeah. I think that's all I have to say, other than the fact that I'm very happy to be here. And I take it seriously. I will be involved. I will talk, maybe more than most of you care to hear from me. And I will cry. And cry. And cry. And cry. Sometimes there'll be tears of sadness and sometimes there'll be tears of joy. But I'm never going to hesitate to shed them with you. Thank you.
And as Tim signs our book and joins with us, I just want to affirm our covenant that he spoke of. In the bonds of fellowship and love, we unite to cultivate reverence, to promote spiritual growth and ethical commitment, to minister to each other's needs and to those of humanity, to celebrate the sacred moments of life's passages, and to honor the holiness at the heart of being. Tim, we welcome you to this community with all of our hearts.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jan. Thank you, Tim. Welcome. Wow. That was wonderful. Thank you. So as we prepare for the offertory, we pause to remember what we hold in common. Our giving is one way we say, this community matters. This work matters. Each of us matters. May these offerings of money, of presence, of care, help us become more fully the people we aspire to be. And if you are a guest, please know your presence here today is gift enough for all of us. Today's reading is taken from The Falsification of African Consciousness by Amos Wilson. African spirituality was never separated from economics, politics, psychology, or social organization. It was a science of how to relate to the universe in a way that sustained African life. The spiritual systems of African people were grounded in balance, reciprocity, and harmony with natural forces. They were not abstract beliefs, but practical frameworks for survival and continuity. When Africans were stripped of their spiritual systems, they were stripped of the organizing principles of their reality. What remains is confusion, dependency, and a vulnerability to domination. A moment of quiet for all of us. It is a wonder and a mystery that our paths have crossed, that in the immensity of time, in the vastness of space, we coincide here. I am in awe at the ways in which our lives intersect and intertwine. at the beauty we create when we gather. May our coming together make us more compassionate, more just, more caring, and more loving. May our hearts and our minds be open in this place. I am so glad that you are here. Let us marvel at the miracle of being here right now and the mystery that has brought us together. So let's take a few minutes to pause, to breathe, and to reflect. Tim, this is for you. And welcome, Ajamu.
Good morning, beautiful people. Good morning. Okay, I've got a full house today. I like this. It's always my pleasure being here and being able to fellowship, being able to connect, being able to educate, being able to learn. That's a part of growing community. So where's our friend Tim? Where did Tim go? There he is. I really appreciate just your presence this morning because I understand that need to want to feel belonging, especially when you're searching for that higher power, you're searching for that purpose. I was always taught that the word fellowship means that you're not the only fellow on your ship, right? So all too often when life hits us with these crazy storms, whether it's financial or family or health or so on and so forth, and as we know, you're trying to man this ship in a storm, you got to raise the sail, you got to drop the anchor, you got to steer the boat, you got to look at the maps, and it becomes overwhelming and you crash your ship. But if I realize that through fellowship, me and Tim are on the same ship trying to navigate this thing. Tim, you hold it down over here, I'll hold it down over here. Ms. Nora, you hold it down up there, and we'll be able to weather this storm together. So I pray that as you grow in the fellowship, you find that thing that you need. I really appreciate your vulnerability. I really appreciate that. Thank you. I want to just share with my little bit of time two pieces of this message, if you will. One piece just kind of give us an update about some of the work we're doing with Heal the Hood and what our plans are for 2026, and then dive into the prescribed topic about Afrocentric-based spirituality and different religious systems. I am extremely excited this year because we celebrate 14 years of operation with Heal the Hood Milwaukee, and that is an accomplishment in and of itself. The growth that we've seen, the ability to take this movement all across the United States, but around the world as well. My best friend Jessica, who helps to facilitate and run Heal the Hood, she spent time in Rwanda last year learning about peace building efforts and community building efforts between victimizer and victim, right? So they would hold these circles over in Rwanda, and they would have a woman come up and talk about how she was raped as a means of control through war, right? And then shortly thereafter, she would have one of the warriors who was one of the soldiers who committed these heinous acts in the name of whatever the cause was, and talk about his redemptive story. So now you got these two people in this space who at one point in time were mortal enemies, but now they're working together for a bigger picture on how do we build community, how do we prevent these things from happening. And so we want to take those type of teachings and those techniques and bring them right back to the streets of Milwaukee where we do this work. We are excited to celebrate our 14th annual Heal the Hood Block Party and Resource Fair. We're going to do two of those this year. One will be May 30th. One will be August 29th. And I love these Heal the Hood events that we do. I mean, we have 1,000+ people come out, food, fun, fellowship, 40+ vendors, resource vendors, business vendors. But this year we want to be more intentional with the work we do with Heal the Hood, particularly in our children's corner. We always have different arts and craft activities for the babies. We always get a bunch of like Heal the Hood shirts similar to the ones we see on the table. They're all white and the kids can color and paint them and then wear them at the festival throughout the day. So we do have a lot of engagement with the Children's Corner, but I wanted us to be more intentional this time around. So we'll have several stations at Heal the Hood. I'm super excited about this in our children's area. One station, we're going to teach the babies about health and hygiene. We're going to teach the babies about health and hygiene. They're going to get small hygiene kits. Another station will teach literacy development, right? So I want the kiddos who come out to Heal the Hoods this year to say, I went to that block party and I learned a new word. Let me tell you this new word I learned. Let me show you this free book that I got from this event, right? That is the primary goal with that. And another space that we're intentionally opening up in the children's corner particularly is grief work, right? And we want to do specific work for young children who have been first or secondhand victims of firearm violence. I have a friend in Milwaukee who does this grief counseling, but she does like this butterfly release. So we're going to get like 100 butterflies, and the kids can come up and do this activity and learn about big emotions and scary feelings, and then they can release their butterfly in the name of whatever they want to do with that. And so I'm very excited to be able to kick off this particular avenue and aspect of Heal the Hood. I think it's going to be extremely beneficial, and I think that those children will be able to come to Heal the Hood after year after year after year and say, this is why I come to Heal the Hood, because I feel belonging, because I feel fellowship, because I feel seen, because I feel heard. And that's what will continue to grow the movement. So everywhere I go, you know, over the next several months, even this week alone, so I'm here today. Tomorrow I have to be at a 3-day conference in Wisconsin Dells. Wednesday morning when I leave the conference, I have to go to Racine to do some African drumming. This month I'll be in Platteville, UW-Platteville, doing some work. I'll be in Rock Island, Illinois, doing some work. And everywhere I go, I'm sounding the trumpet of Heal the Hood, right? And so it's a big mission that we're looking to accomplish this year. And so we are raising funds. We raising about $60,000 of funds we're looking for. So if anybody in this room wants to write a check right now, we can pause service and we can get that done, right? And even if you don't have a $60,000 check for us, if you have $59,999, we will gladly accept that as well, right? So if you want to sow into what we have going on with Heal the Hood, definitely see me after the service and we can talk more about that. What drove my topic today to really take a more deeper look at Afrocentric based spirituality and religion, I was doing some work up north at several churches, and I realized that there was a fundamental difference between how churches of color worship and how non-churches of color worship. Churches of non-color, why am I mixing my words up? I think you get what I'm trying to say. Lord have mercy, my goodness. And it caused me to kind of start to rewind something and say, okay, let's start where we're at, right? This is what I'm noticing. This is my observation. I want to know why there's this fundamental difference. And so that kind of took me on a journey to backtrack and really dive deeper into the role that religion and spirituality plays for those from the African diaspora. And it took me all the way back to learning about early presence of Islam in Africa. It took me all the way back to learning about early presence of Christianity in Africa. It took me all the way back to understanding Kemetic religions and institutions, ancient Egyptian religious systems and spiritual systems. One of those I want to kind of highlight today, and you know, we don't have too much time, so this is kind of an abridged conversation. This is a presentation I built out. It's about a 2-hour long presentation, so we're going to try to go from here to here, so work with me, right? So one of the spiritual systems we want to talk about today is called the Osset Society. It is an organization that was birthed here in America, I think on the East Coast, if I'm correct. And that particular religious or spiritual organization, their principles come from ancient Egyptian teachings and ancient Egyptian philosophies and ancient Egyptian ways of life. So within the system, there are several deities that govern different type of decision making, that govern different type of personality traits. And it's said that all of these deities live within us to some degree, right? Some of those energies, some of those personality traits are more dominant in us than others. But we all have a piece of these different, deities that make us whole, if you will. I took a deep dive in looking at Ifa. Ifa is an African spiritual system that, same as the Kemetic teaching, they believe that we have different deities that govern different parts of the universe, that govern different parts of our thinking, different parts of our personality types. So in Ifa, you'll find Olodumare, Oshun, Obatula, Ogun, all of these different entities that, once you kind of do your readings, if you will, you find out which deity represents you or which, deity you represent, and then you live that truth as represented through that deity. It's a very interesting type of way of life, if you will. And then I went and did a little bit of deeper dive into Christianity and learning that some of the earliest forms of religion that we see on the planet come from Ethiopia. Ethiopia has one of the earliest written Bibles that is untouched, unaltered by man, untranslated, you know what I'm saying, by our own perspective, if you will. And Ethiopia holds the key to a deeper level of Christianity, right? And so even in modern day society, yes, we obviously have to bear witness that religion, particularly Christianity, was used as a tool of enslavement, as a tool of oppression, and it was just totally twisted all the way up and used for a negative control. But Christianity in its purest form, in its earliest form, it comes from us as black folks. It comes from Ethiopia when you just dive all the way in and you go all the way back to you can't go back no more. Everyone will tell you Ethiopia is the birthplace for Christianity and that particular way of life. And so I went a little bit deeper and I said, okay, as we kind of examine all of these different ways of life, these different spiritual and religious systems, how does that play a role in today and the difference between how worship is done in the two different arenas, if you will? And what is obvious, it's not even what I noticed or what I observed, what is obvious is that there is restraint on black joy nowadays, right? There is a cap on black joy, right? Even how Tim came in and was vulnerable with tears, there's a cap on how much a man can do that in this world, so to speak. And so what I've learned in black churches, there is such a loud worship, okay? There is such a clap your hands, stomp your feet, you know, run around the church, shout, whatever you need to do to get that thing out and to simply say, God, I thank you. Sometimes we don't have the articulation to say, oh my God, this word is so good. I'm a changed man. I'm feeling something growing inside of me. So we shout and we just say, hallelujah. But what I realize is that the church is our safe haven. The church is where we can come to be free. The church is where we can connect and really build community. When you look at the role that religious institutions played in the civil rights era, a little bit before and then a little bit after, it was literally the hub for movement. The churches were the hub for gathering, right? The Panthers would meet at different churches. Robert Williams and his organization, Negroes with Guns, would meet at churches, and that would be the safe space for community. That's the safe space for us to talk about our issues, for us to plan and strategize our issues. There is some respect to the church house, so that's always a bonus for us to be able to gather and use that as a tool to strengthen us. Robert Williams, who I reference a lot of his work, he's a phenomenal black man who did a bunch of, where he was a Second Amendment advocate. He was big on saying, hey, Ku Klux Klan got guns, well, so do we, okay? And the motto of his organization, Negroes with Guns, was very simple: we shoot back. Now, I'm not advocating this, that, or the third. I'm just telling you what history is teaching us, right? Now, in Robert Williams, I saw an interview he did, and he talked about what made the organization Negroes with Guns so powerful wasn't necessarily those on the front line, but it were those who were school teachers or ministers or, you know, had more prominent roles in society, and they couldn't be on the front line, but they supported so heavily on the back end, right? So there were churches who would say, hey, you know, I'm a preacher, I can't necessarily join the organization, but you can put some guns here at the church. Or we're going to raise an offering for a couple of weeks and we're going to donate that to the movement and the organization. And the church became a staple for what we see today. And so, you know, again, as I just analyzed the situation, I said, why do black folks shout how we shout? We have a restrained joy, and in the world, it tells us that our joy is a bad thing. It tells us that our shout is a bad thing. And so when we come to fellowship before God, it is our time to be naked. It is our time to allow our truth to set free. I'm referencing Tim a bunch because I really do love you, Tim. I'm serious. Every week when I go to church, I have that same kind of reaction that Tim had right up here. Now, I didn't know about drinking some water to stop those tears. I'm going to take a gallon of water to church with me next time, because the way I'm just always in church just shouting and crying and just allowing the word to move me in ways is because of the pressure that is on my chest as a black man is something a little bit different nowadays. And so when I come into communion, when I come into fellowship and I hear that word, that means I'm not the only fellow on my ship, it moves me in a way to shout. And it's funny, I talk about it all the time. I go into church, sometimes I say, Ajamu, don't do too much today. Okay, so I'm sitting down and I might just start rocking back and forth a little bit. That's how I know, okay, it's gonna be a day today. And then I'm standing up, and then I'm walking back and forth in the aisles, and then I'm shouting, and then I'm doing this thing. But I've allowed the Holy Spirit to move through me. And for all of the time where I'm in the world and I want to cry and I want to shout and I want to be frustrated and I want to say why me and all of that, and all the times I can't do it out there, I can do it safely in the house of worship. And so for us, for black folks, the church has become that sanctified place for us to be free. It's become a place for us to grow. As we said in that quote from Amos Wilson, African spiritual systems are not just about, you know, praying or talking to that higher power or communion. It's how we govern economics. It's how we govern education. It's how we govern politics. It's how we govern how we grow our food and when we grow our food. It's how we govern how we take care of our health and wellness. It is the staple for us. Because if we as a people of color don't look to something greater than us, if we get caught up in the image in the mirror or how life wants to handle us, we'll never be able to flourish as a people. But when we can go to a higher source and say, okay, this burden is too big for me, I have to lay it down. I was having a conversation with a good friend of mine back in Milwaukee. He was just going through some things. My young brother, maybe 23 or 24 or so, he was, you know, life is just handling him rough, we'll say. Life is life, and as they say. And so I pulled up on him, and we was just having a good conversation. But one of the questions I asked him was, what is your spiritual or belief system, right? How do you know, what is that? Because I know for me, I focus on three things. When my head is hurting and life is tearing me up, I focus on faith, fitness, and finances. And I believe that those three things just help me to be a better man. Building my faith, staying at Planet Fitness, and making sure I got enough money to cover all of life's expenses, if you will. And so when we dove into that conversation, one thing he said to me was that he doesn't pray because he feels like he's giving his power away. Right? Because he's praying to something outside of himself, something bigger than himself. He's giving his power away. I said, my young brother, you just said something. I said, that is the purpose of prayer. That is the exact point of prayer. Because when we want to handle all of that, and when we think we have all of the answers, and when we think we have all of the wisdom and all of the insight and all of the knowledge and all of the power, I said, that's why we're here in this moment right now having this conversation about how hectic life is. But I said, what if you relinquish some of that power? And you say, I don't want to carry this burden. Right? I want my heart to be a little bit lighter. I don't want to have a hardened heart. And you pray and you gave your power away. That's not a bad thing, especially when you're talking about talking to the higher power. So I'm digressing a little bit. Again, I'm trying to take a 2-hour conversation, right, and bring that thing in. But what I noticed in worship of color is that our relationship with Creator, our relationship with nature, with the plants, with the divine, with the universe, with the sun, moon, and stars, whatever you want to call that thing, it is so important to us because sometimes that is all we have. Sometimes all we have is that thing that is greater than us. And it allows us to move forward in this world. So I also want to mention, religious spiritual systems like Rastafarianism, which is an offshoot of Christianity, if you will. And all throughout time, even if you look into Buddhism, right, Hinduism, if you go way, way back in time, you'll see that some of the earliest deities, some of the earliest depictions of their gods were people of color. And so in the paragraph on the front of the pamphlet, we talk about how Africa has been the birthplace of religions and spiritual systems that have traveled all around the world. In the presentation, we talk about early Islamic presence in Africa. We talk about the first mosque that was set up in America through the transatlantic slave trade when slaves came here to this land. We talk about the first mosque that was built out. We talk about the first churches and where those were seen in Atlanta and, throughout the South. And we talking about churches. We talking about a one-room shack, okay, a couple of pews, 1 or 2 Bibles that was shared, and a podium for that message to go forward. Right. So I know we'll have a little bit more time in our talk back. Right. And I definitely hope that you all are able to stay and ask questions, because I would love to talk a little bit more, again, about that early presence of Christianity in Africa, talk a little bit more about the Osera Osset Society, talk a little bit more about the Ifa religion, and just things I've learned throughout time. In South Africa, there's a word that they use for God, and that word is Umkhulu Umkhulu. Umkhulu Umkhulu. And anytime you hear somebody say Umkhulu Umkhulu, they're going to hold up one finger, because that God represents the oneness. Whatever your belief system is, whatever angle you coming from, there is a oneness, there is a purity in the one God that we all serve, no matter what you call that thing. Yeah. Okay. So I won't take up too much time up here. Again, we got some more talk back time, and I hope we're all able to connect. Or I don't even know how much time I have, because I can really stretch this thing out. So show me a timer, somebody. Okay, perfect. Okay, yes, ma'am. I'll be here. It was like, okay, almost 1 o'clock now. And that's another thing. I noticed, and this will kind of be my last point. In churches of color, we take our time with that word. We can't rush the Holy Spirit. We got to So you go to a black church, so you might be in there for 3 hours. You might be in there for 2.5 hours, but you're going to come out a whole new individual. There's a video that I just thought was so hilarious, and I'll end it here. There's a church in Jamaica, and it's like testimony time, just how we, pass the mic around here. And the mother stands up and starts to, share her word. And somebody says to her, Mother Nora, we need you to keep your testimony short today. Mother Nora must be very long. Mother Nora, we need you to keep your testimony today short today. Mother Nora said, I'll shorten my testimony when God gets short on my blessing. Oh, the church went crazy. I mean, the church went crazy. Mother said, I'm going to take my time and talk about the goodness of God, and we're not going to rush that thing. So that is my time. I hope to connect and fellowship a little bit later on, and I'll talk to you all soon. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Aju. And hopefully you can join us afterwards. So if you would please stand again or join from your seat if you'd like for hymn 212, We Are Dancing Sarah's Circle.
We are dancing Sarah's circle. We are dancing Sarah's circle. We are dancing Sarah's circle. Sisters, brothers, all. We seek and find our history. Here we seek and find our history. Here we seek and find our history. Sisters, brothers, all. We will all do our own naming. We will all do our own naming. We will all do our own naming. Sisters, brothers, all. Every round a generation, every round a generation, every round a generation, sisters, brothers, all. On and on the circles moving, on and on the circles moving, on and on the circles moving, sisters, brothers, all.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you, Trish. Jane, would you join us again to extinguish the chalice, please? We extinguish this flame in this place, but carry its light into the world, into acts of courage, into acts of justice, into love made visible, into living with Ubuntu. Go in peace and go in purpose. May it be so.